We are going to start right now. Welcome, everybody, especially you newbies. Thank the Lord that the snow stayed away. We just had a trickle. That's fantastic. For those that don't know me, I'm Sam Brancador, Chairman of the Berks County Patriots. I'm going to bring Kelly up here. Kelly Hurd, our new Vice Chair. She's going to open the meeting with the prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Here's Kelly.
Good evening. If you'll bow your heads in prayer with me. Lord God, we come before you in praise, and we thank you for this opportunity to come together as patriots, as like-minded people who love their country and have a heart's desire to heal and save our America, the America we grew up in, with freedoms afforded by our founding fathers and by those who fought and or gave their life for, the America we want for our children and our grandchildren and many generations to come. We thank you for your presence here tonight, Lord, and we ask for your wisdom and guidance. Guide the words of the speakers and open our eyes and ears to the information presented here this evening, and show each of us where we can best serve one another in this battle to save our beloved country. Help each of us to stay focused on you, Lord God, our source of knowledge, guidance, safety, and comfort, as we navigate the treacherous waters in this fight against evil and in our efforts to restore our freedoms. We give you praise and honor in Jesus' precious name and holy name. Amen. All right, if you'll join me in the pledge, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rugged red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
I just laid stuff on top of yours. I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Steve, for the video. And folks, Steve had about a 4.5 minute video looped that he played a bunch of times before the meeting. Stop it. My time's not up yet. And it's fantastic. I hope you all got a chance to look at it, or listen to it, and look at it. Folks, I'm going to keep my remarks very, very brief, and certainly Ed's going to make sure I do that so we have the maximum amount of time for our candidates. First, I want to thank all of you for the wonderful meeting we had last month honoring our veterans and Christmas party. It was absolutely fantastic. As you know, every year we select a veterans group to support. Last year it was Veterans Making a Difference. That's Liz and Doug Bragbill, great people. Folks, there were hundreds of gift wrap presents for the veterans' children. There was also many, many, many non-perishable food items, clothing, and other donations. There was so much that they had that they could not take it all out that evening. They had to bring their truck back the next day to get it. So, folks, thank you so much for your generosity. Please support our veterans throughout the year as well. Thank you very much. Moving on to some BCP business, we're looking for additional locations to put up our 4x8 signs to promote the Berks County Patriots. We have about a dozen throughout the counties. We'd like to double that. So if you have a location, know of one, please see of us. Now, all of us, folks, all of us can put this sign up. You can put it up in your yard. You can put it up, in your window, whatever. We're only asking for a donation, even $2. The most important thing is not the money. The most important thing is that you take them with you tonight. Take them for yourself, your friends, relatives, neighbors. We want to spread these throughout Berks County and the surrounding counties. So please, folks, take a couple with you tonight. Also, we have our 50-50 raffle. You must be present to win. We do that at the end of the meeting. And we also have our gun raffle. Steve, Joe, anybody know how close we are to what's going off? 12 left on the AR-15. Come and get it, folks. 12 left on the AR-15. That means we will do that tonight. Also, we have our Made in the USA hats and shirts. And for the first time ever, you can check Steve out, our new addition. He's our model. We have Joe in the back modeling as well. They're not getting paid. They look fantastic on them, don't they, folks? So please support it in that regard as well. One other thing. I don't have my flyer here in front of us, but you know our monthly flyer that we have? We're looking for other locations to put the flyer up. So we do, of course, media, electronics and so forth. We do all that, but we want physical location. So if you know a business, a church, or some place that will allow that to be put up each month, please see us. Maybe you could do it for us, or at least give us a location, and we will, do it accordingly. Now, folks, we do these raffles and etc. to help offset some of our costs. Our only income we have is what happens at these meetings here and any donations. So please, folks, thank you for your generosity. Okay, I think, did I stay within my time, Ed? Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for, I see him. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Folks, I'm very pleased to announce this month's meeting is being sponsored by the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. My friend, Tom Carroll here is their chairman. Fantastic group. They meet the fourth Thursday of the month. First Thursday of the month. I should know because we go down there and they come up here. Great bunch of people. We work together on different issues. It's important, folks, all the groups around. We got a couple other groups here tonight. It's important that all the groups network. That's the only way. We need to multiply our forces in order to get our agenda accomplished. And the agenda really is God's work that we need to do. So I want to welcome up here to say a few words, Tom Carroll, Lehigh Valley Tea Party. Tom?
Good evening, everybody. God put us here in this place and this time for a reason. We are in a battle of good versus evil, and thank you for standing up today and being here and all that you do. We are so proudly connected to Sam and Linda and the Berks Patriots for as long as we've been in existence. We're fighting battles of evil. Right as we spoke in the last couple of weeks, they've been flying airplanes into the Lehigh Valley International Airport with trains or illegals. I followed buses not too long ago, a couple nights ago. They're all adults. So our legislatures need to stand up. We need to go to them and say, it's time. Stand up for America. Stand up for our people. And all these people running for office, hold them accountable. We're here to work with you, and you work with us, because like Sam said, we're on a mission. We're going to save our country. So we just wanted to proudly say thank you for all the work you do here in the Berks Patriots. And we meet on the first Thursday, as he said. So you're welcome to come to our meetings or go to lvtp.org and look what we're doing. And God bless you all, and have a good meeting.
Thank you, Tom. And I said, folks, please join them. They are a fantastic group. Have a fantastic meeting. Actually,
hey, Sam, I was handed a piece of paper for an announcement, if I could do that. White Grand Cherokee, upper lot, your car is on fire. No, I'm kidding. Your lights are on. White Grand Cherokee, upper lot, your interior lights are on. It's not on fire.
Okay, up next, folks, is Ms. Constitution, Carol Gardecki. She will give us our Constitution minutes. She's fantastic, been doing this for a long time. Hopefully some of you have gone to her classes. If you haven't, you need to join her. Carol Gardecki, folks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, a commercial. I'm starting a new Constitution class in April. I have information back there at my table. I'm the first table next to the gun raffle. This is the book we'll be studying, over 800 pages. So if you're interested, you want more information, come on back and see me. I'll talk more about it at our next meeting. Also, if you never contacted your congressman before, please do so now. Do not let them push this voting rights bill. The states run the elections, not the federal government. I'm just going to read you part of Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 of the Constitution. The Constitution says it will be up to the legislature of each state to determine the time, place, and manner in which elections shall be held for federal offices, but the Congress may at any time pass a law to alter such arrangements. They have altered things in the past, mostly for the good. When women got the right to vote, that was an alteration. When they got rid of the poll tax, which some states, especially in the South, had, that was a good thing. But this thing is not good that they're pushing now. Do not let them federalize the elections. Do you realize how easy it will be to do bad things if they're running the whole thing? If every state is running their own, it's a little tough to corrupt 50 different election cycles. So make sure, call your congressman, especially the Senate. The Senate is the one that's kind of pushing really hard. Chuck Schumer would love to do this. So call them, tell them not to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. You see we have handrails now. That's the courtesy of Steve and Joe and Len. Thank you very much, guys. Folks, I'm going to take a minute that I don't have, but I just got to tell you something I heard today. In the bill that was passed, the federal government, someone told me that on page 441 or something like that, there's something in there that the government put in that cars starting in, I don't know, 2025, that the government agencies can stop that car at any time if they see it's driving erratic. Now, the purpose, they say, is drunken driving and so forth, safety and so forth. Can you imagine if that's truly in there and they can do that? That means they know where you are every second of every day, can shut you down no matter what you are doing. So, folks, if that is true, and I hope someone checks that, we really got to find out why that got passed, or more importantly, we got to undo that. So give that some thought. Okay, Dean Klopp came to me, wanted to speak for a couple minutes. I said, Dean, we don't have any time. The more I thought about it, what he wants to say is important. However, it's only going to take 2 minutes. That's all I'm giving him. And so to make sure he stays within 2 minutes, he has Ron Boltz coming up to take his place. Ron, Pennsylvania Liberty Alliance, folks, great group as well.
Thank you, Sam. Let me see a show of hands. How many people here love Act 77 and mail-in voting? You think it's great, right? That's right. How many people here would like to see the end of no-excuse mail-in voting and the end of Act 77? Well, then you're in the right place. I've got an update for you, folks. How many people, one more question, have talked to their representatives or senators about repealing Act 77, and they give you excuse after excuse? They point the blame at the courts. They point the blame at their fellow legislators and say, we don't have the votes. Or they point the blame and say, this is probably the one you've heard. Well, Governor Wolf wouldn't sign it anyway, so what's the point of running a repeal bill? Have anybody heard these excuses? Because I certainly have. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, there's no more excuses. There is a bill currently in the Senate State Government Committee. It's SB 884. This bill is a constitutional amendment that would not require the signature of the governor. It would pass, exactly. It would need to pass 2 sessions in the state legislature. Then it goes to the ballot for you guys, the people, to decide. So here's the problem. It's still sitting in state government committee and they don't want to run it. Why don't they want to run it? Because they don't want to be on record. Why don't they want to be on record? Well, for many reasons, but the biggest is probably because there's a primary coming up and they don't want you to know that they don't want to get rid of this. That's where we come in. I am asking you folks, well, let me tell you a little bit about the bill real quick, and then I'll give you your homework assignment. First of all, it eliminates no excuse mail-in voting, period. It would also eliminate the automatic mail list that automatically mails out ballots. It would end the late voting. In other words, Election Day is it. No more receiving ballots after Election Day. But it keeps our current absentee ballot system in place that you guys are all probably familiar with. So if you can't make it to the poll on Election Day, you can still vote absentee like we always could. It gets rid of the no excuse nonsense. And in addition, it actually strengthens our current absentee ballots by adding a signature verification to that. Very much needed. So what I need from you folks, before you leave, right behind the Jones for Lieutenant Governor desk, we have a bunch of flyers with a couple of phone phone numbers and some email addresses on there that you folks got to get rid of, or get a hold of, and probably get rid of. 2 people. Number 1 is Jake Corman, President Pro Temp, Jake the Snake. He earned that name. He certainly earned that name. What does that mean, Ed? Give me a couple more seconds. We got to contact Jake the Snake, who wants to run for governor and is going to act like a conservative now, ask for your vote, but he's now holding up this bill. He's telling you he's all for election audits. He's telling you he's all for getting rid of mail-in ballots, but why isn't he doing anything? The chairman of this committee is Senator Dave Argel. Why is Dave Argel not running this bill? We need to contact Dave Argel and tell him enough playing around. We're not buying the excuses anymore. Run this bill. We want it out to the Senate floor for a vote, and we want this done before the primary election. Help me out, folks. Get a hold of those 2 folks and demand this gets done. Thank you.
I just want to do a quick announcement. First of all, I know we have some candidates here. We have James Jones, who will be speaking, Jason Richey. And I also know we have in the house Charlie Giroux. Charlie Giroux, I wanted to acknowledge Charlie being here. Are there any other, Charlie's in the back there? Fantastic. Thank you, Charlie. Are there any other candidates in the house? Anybody else? Who are you? Repeat that again. Morrow. Oh, for the 6th district. Okay, welcome. Okay, any other candidates? Yes? Lisa Scheller. Okay, we know you, Lisa. Thank you very much. Got your bracelet, girl. Anybody else? We covered? Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Steve. Whoa. Who? Steve? Oh, Steve. Okay. Okay, fine. I'll get to you. I want to talk to you after the meeting anyways. Steve, you got it.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, folks, here's the dreaded black rifle that can shoot 3,000 rounds per second, according to CNN and some Democratic politicians. I'm going to ask a good friend of the Patriots, Charlie, if he would come up and draw it for me. Charlie's celebrating a special. He's a U.S. Navy veteran, and he is celebrating his 83rd birthday today. So, Charlie, thanks. You've done this before for us, and we appreciate it. And this firearm is unloaded. It is safe. You just want to pull one out of there for me, buddy? I'll trade you that. The winning number for the AR-15, 034. Dawn Reppert? Dorn Reppert? Or
Dawn?
hey, look at that. He's here.
Oh, there.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Come on. We're going to get a picture with this gentleman with his gun. Well, you won today. There's no doubt about it. 034. There's the ticket. Picture. You want to take your win it in anybody? With Charlie.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Smile Rod right there, and that guy right there. Good. All right.
Steve, do you want to tell them what's coming up next right now? That's the tickets being sold. While Steve's going through that, folks in the back.
Okay.
Hey,
how about a round of applause for Charlie? 83rd birthday today. God bless you. 83 years young. Yeah, the next gun up for raffle is the Smith & Wesson 9mm EZ. Folks, we only have 100 tickets for that pistol. So you got a really good chance for $10 a shot for that pistol. And again, if we roll through that, we will put up the American-made AK-47. I stress an American-made AK-47 is our next raffle. Thanks, folks. This means a lot. This would help get us through the year and pay the bills.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, folks, for purchasing tickets. It supports us, of course. I do want to say, in the back, I know you want to conduct your business and you want to chat and so forth, but please keep it down. It's hard for the ones in the audience here to hear the speakers, so please respect the speakers and the audience. And thank you very much. Kelly, I believe you're up next.
Hello again. This evening, I have the distinct privilege of introducing to you candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Mr. James Jones. James is a constitutionalist, a businessman, and a decorated veteran of 3 wars. He is committed to supporting issues such as a political society where government officials are not free to do anything they please and in any manner they please, to growing the economy, workforce planning, economic policies, and government accountability, as well as economic prosperity. Please join me in welcoming James Jones, candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's such a great opportunity to be here with you. They gave me 10 minutes to fix 8 years of what happened. So y'all bear with me, I'm gonna make it happen. You know, I hear a lot of these career politicians talk about how much stress they come under, how tough their jobs are when they're getting pressed to make decisions. I'm a businessman. I run 2 businesses. Just yesterday morning, about 5:30 a.m., I was on a telephone conference call with several different countries: Dubai, Greece, India, and I believe the other one was someplace in Africa. And then he had to have the black guy to broker the deal. Talk about pressure. I'm James Jones, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm not a businessman. I'm sorry, I am a businessman. I'm not a career politician. And that's why it separates me from some of the other folks who are actually running. I've been a party to the Tea Party since 2008. I love the Tea Party because you know what? This is where the rubber meets the road. I am a father of 3, grandfather of 8, a great-grandfather of 2. I come from a sharecropper's background. I was an Eagle Scout. I got so involved in my community. My brother joined the Navy. He showed me what the war was like when he went to Vietnam. And I said, I gotta go. Mom said, you can, but not right now. So I quit school for a whole day. Then I got back into school because I got hungry when she put me out of the house. I come from a medium-sized family. There were 7 of us, 4 boys, 3 girls. And the thing about it is that we all had to go to church. It was not multiple choice. So I'm a Christian, pro-life, amen. Pro-life, constitutionalist, Second Amendment, First Amendment, and I'll fight to the gill to keep my guns. When I was in the Navy, I trained Navy SEALs. You know what, folks? I still got a lot of Rambo left in me today, which is why I can do well for you in Harrisburg. I believe that we have an opportunity right now. A little bit more about my background. I run 2 businesses. An HR consultant practice where I've been responsible for over 275,000 people in over 21 different locations. In the Navy, I've managed over $200 million budgets and a wide variety of people. I've negotiated more than 25 labor contracts. I know what it means to get people back to work where labor and management can work together and get things done. Most importantly, I'm a Frederick Douglass conservative. What that means, folks, is that Frederick Douglass stood for 3 boxes, and I'm going to tell you about 3 more boxes that I'd like to add to that. Frederick Douglass stood for the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. And let me talk about one of these boxes just for a brief moment, because we don't have to be able to make up new amendments or anything, because, folks, we have the Second Amendment that we have to stand on. And the lady Carol who just spoke earlier, she told you about that. She's holding classes to educate us on what we need to do to understand our already God-given rights. The 10th Amendment is the number one supporter of what we have to live with as a Commonwealth. I always keep my little Patriot handbook with me. It's my Constitution. Yes, I keep it all the time. Oftentimes I give them away. But I'm going to tell you real briefly what the 10th Amendment says on the Constitution. It says, this is a U.S. Constitution. It says, the power not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the state respectively, or to the people. So guess what? When we had to go through all of that hardship earlier, and I'm referring to the overreach of government, when we went through this pandemic, shame on us for allowing that to happen. Shame on every politician that's sitting right there in Harrisburg who allowed it to happen. Go ahead, I appreciate that. Each and every one of them represented us. They made a bunch of promises and they couldn't keep it. My promise is this: the promises I make to you, I'll keep them. Why? I'm a businessman. I have a 3 to 5 year business plan right now. A 3 to 5 year business plan that I'm going to tell you about in the remaining few minutes, that's going to be able to make you feel more comfortable. We have to have an energy policy, an education policy, and you know what? We've got folks who allow Washington, D.C. to dictate to us how we were going to control the XL pipeline, Dakota Access, and so many others. We can run a pipeline straight down to Philadelphia at the harbor there and get this product moving straight out to our customers. I've met with the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance. I've met with the Pennsylvania farmers. And you know what, guys? They're hurting. They're upset because we've had politicians in office that they didn't represent us well. And shame on us if we continue to allow that to happen. We got to stop it, folks. We have a great opportunity right now. And that opportunity is 2022 and 2024. We have Democrats that are abandoning their own party. We don't need fighting in-house. We need to have us to pick the right person who can represent us, who's not going to compromise our values of we the people. We need to stick to what we the people believe in, and that's the Constitution. I hear folks talking about impeaching a guy down in Philadelphia, the district attorney who's been bought and paid for by George Soros. Guess what, folks? Yeah, he's trying to run for governor. I heard him on Fox News. But I'm going to tell you something right now. We got a lot of those guys who need to be held accountable for Act 77, which was brought online before the pandemic happened. In 2019, they brought in Act 77. And them same folks brought in Senate Bill 133, where they said, let's allow the governor to pick his own lieutenant governor. I don't want that. And I hope you all don't want it. I hope you can feather and vet every person for lieutenant governor, and you pick the right ones. We, the people, need to have the right person. We got one chance, folks. We got one chance to fix this thing. Donald Trump was a one-term president, and you know what? We control both houses. We had a president who made promises, and he respected those promises and lived up to them. I campaigned with him. Amen. I campaigned with him. And you know, I just felt so sad to see, here it is, we had all these Republicans in both houses drop the ball, and didn't give him the support we needed. Hopefully we won't make that mistake again, guys. We got to get a governor in place, and yes, I am a Frederick Douglass conservative, because you know why? Frederick Douglass inspired the Emancipation Proclamation, which set slaves free. I've got a 3 to 5 year business plan that I will meet with the governor, whoever he or she may be, and I will sit there and say, listen, Let's not just go hog wild and do some reckless things. Let's think about what we need to do first from a business standpoint. Here's my 3 to 5 year business plan, and let's massage it with education. Let's get real education back in the classes. Let's talk about civics and not CRT. Let's talk about things that's going to make a world of difference. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm not running as a politician, and I think you can feel that. I'm a businessman. And I believe that it's going to require a lot of business decisions to make things happen. So in closing, let me just share this with you. I've met with the rural communities, suburban communities, urban communities. I've been over 63 counties since I did the exploratory and started running for lieutenant governor. I feel the heartbeat of what people are saying in Pennsylvania. I didn't just start last month, but I want to be able to represent you and represent you well. Here's why. We can't afford to make this. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking to make a difference. God knows I'm looking to make a difference. You can get more information from me on Jones for ltgovernorpa.com. God bless you. God bless America. We're going to make this thing happen. We're going to give them a tissue box and make them cry come 2022. The tissue box is what they deserve. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. We're going to make this thing happen, folks. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, sir. You did great.
Thank you.
Welcome. Good luck to you. Folks, up next is Deborah Jordan. 1 second, girl. She is the founder of the Council of American Patriots. They are a young group. I believe they started early last year. She can correct me. But folks, don't let that fool you. They are a ball of fire. These people are dynamic. They are going to make a difference. And I'm so glad that we're on the same team. Let's all welcome Deborah Jordan.
This one's mine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Deborah Jordan. Like Sam said, I am with the CAP group. We like to call ourselves Council of American Patriots. We're based out of Luzerne County. Our goal is simple. We want to put America back on the right track and keep it there. So tonight's topic that I'm going to speak about is the subject of critical race theory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a short journey of how this got into the psyche of today. So our trip is going to start in Germany in the year 1919. It's going to end in America in 2022. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed between Germany and the Allied powers. Well, this incited much resentment and anger among the people of Germany. So looking for somewhere to place blame, many began to accuse the Democratic Socialist Party. They felt that they had undermined Germany's efforts in the final stages of World War I. One group in the forefront who believed this to be true was known as the Frankfurt School. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that, but they're kind of integral to the CRT topic. This group was a faction of Marxist intellectuals associated with Germany's Institute for Social Research. Due to their beliefs, they aimed to develop a society based on Marxist concepts. And I will quote, to apply these concepts to the social relationships within the capitalistic economic systems like ours. This approach became known as critical theory. So the Frankfurt School, they worked out of Germany until Adolf Hitler's ascension, who of course hated them. And when Hitler came to power in 1933, the group was then forced to leave Germany. And of course, they wound up ultimately in the United States at Columbia University in New York. Well, now let's just fast forward a little bit to the 1960s. The theories of the Frankfurt School were making a major impact among the American youth on college campuses. And it continued. In the 70s, a concept called critical legal theory was developed from critical theory. In this doctrine, it claimed that the Western justice system, our system, is methodically biased against marginalized groups. So this is the critical legal theory. If you look into this, that was their premise. Ultimately, critical race theory evolved from this. So the thematic compound that links critical theory, critical legal theory, and critical race theory is this. It's the Marxist analysis that society is made up of oppressors and the oppressed. Historically, this goes on to say three things. One, oppressors must go through re-education sessions. Two, all societal norms must be dismantled and replaced with a subjective reality. And three, the norms of family, the nation state, capitalism, and God must all be torn down. And doesn't that sound familiar to what's going on today? So let's get right into the canons of critical race theory. And this will show the blatant correlation to the Marxist original critical theory. Critical race theory disrupts systems of power, destabilizes political structures, threatens classic civil liberties, and claims that science and laws are subjective, which means they should not be based on fact, but on feelings, narratives, and counter-stories. Critical race theory professes that the principles of freedom of speech, private property rights, and the judicial system of rules should be favorable to the so-called oppressed. In addition, to show that you are in favor of this emancipation, critical race theory calls for a number of things. Namely, all whites must admit their culpability by professing their advantages came from white supremacy, and that individual whites cannot hide behind any of their own personal histories or any race-neutral laws, because collectively CRT states that the white race has been historically oppressive. Now, when I hear these things, I look at it that CRT really hurts people of all races and of all creeds. The world does not need to be dumbed down for intelligent individuals to thrive. CRT is basically being shoved down our throats, making people accustomed to it and believing in it. This is dividing our country on false narratives of systemic racism. It is weakening the public and private bonds that create trust and allow for purposeful civic engagement. Critical race theory is a vast departure from the original goals of the civil rights movement. This movement, of course, called for colorblind equality and progress by integrity. This makes a mockery of the hard fight for equality by basing rights and privileges on things such as race, gender, or sexual orientation. It's like taking a step backwards to the antebellum South, which is what we so steadfastly forged away from. As for how critical race theory seeped into our consciousness, a noticeable shift came to the American culture when the Obama administration was in office. Obama's use of microaggression and white privilege speech became the catalyst. It made social division commonplace. Now, critical race theory can be found everywhere. College campuses, primary and secondary schools, the workplace, the military, entertainment, and media industries. CRT believes that racism is present everywhere and in everything. So now that we've discussed what CRT is for, let's move on to what it is against. It is against equality. It rejects the neutral principles of constitutional law, and it opposes Enlightenment rationalism. This type of thinking creates what is termed cancel culture that we hear of today. This means that since America was founded on pervasive racism, it must be torn up from the roots. This includes the current teaching in our schools, the free market system, and the idea that rewards come from hard work and ability. So how is the application of these Marxist concepts achieved? Well, just to hit on a few, in the past, Hitler, Stalin, and Mao used mobs of youth to stir up discontent. Today's antagonists use Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Riots and doxing now sow chaos where there was once peace. To make matters worse, this unrest has gained acceptance within the media, professional sports, and academia. So, historically, when I research these things, sometimes when I'm watching the news, I feel that I've read this before in my history books. And I think, what can we take away from these lessons and this little trip through history? Well, just know that when you are reading an article online or you're watching a report on the news and you feel in your gut that something doesn't add up, something just does not feel right, be aware you are being fed a false narrative, a subjective story, one that was written long ago from a book called The Communist Manifesto. Thank you very much. And thank you, veterans. Thank you.
Our next guest is Jason Richey, who is a candidate for governor. Jason has a lot of really good ideas, but he's going to have to be very strong to get them passed through. But that's not going to be a problem for Jason because he's a champion wrestler. So, Jason, you put him in the guillotine choke, the cross-face chicken wing hammerlock, and the cobra clutch. You know them? Please welcome Jason Richey, candidate for governor.
That was so nice. Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Excellent. My name is Jason Richey, and I am a political outsider from Western Pennsylvania who's running to be your governor. And Pennsylvania, as we know, has been on a 50-year economic decline, right? Year after year, we keep going down. The kids and grandkids keep finding their opportunities in Texas, in Tennessee, and other places. Right now, 30% of Pennsylvania's population is age 60 or older. Our number one demographic is 70 to 79-year-olds. The number of kids that are going to go to high school in Pennsylvania in the next 5 years is going to be reduced by 15%. We've got to stop it. We've got to make Pennsylvania a place of opportunity. And the reason why we're in decline is we continue to elect these career politicians, these failed politicians, and people that are connected to the parties and the special interests. I am running as an outsider. I have not held political office before. I am not about special interests. I am running for the good of the people. And thank you. We must bring hope. We must bring economic opportunity so that our kids and our grandkids stay right here in Pennsylvania. Now, I know a little bit about a loss of hope. I come from a town called Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, an old steel town, home of Mike Ditka, who, by the way, NFL Hall of Fame coach who endorsed me for governor. And my dad was a mechanic, and my mom was a public school teacher, and we lived in a blue-collar town at a time when the steel mills were failing. And people were having a hard time finding food. And I can remember with our church, my mom and dad and Meals on Wheels going around to help people find food. And families were breaking up. And I grew up at a tough time. But I wrestled and I played football in high school. And I eventually went to Allegheny College in Crawford County, where I was a 3-time academic All-American wrestler. And people always say, Jason, why do you bring up that wrestling all the time in your political speeches? And I tell them, I want them to know I can take Josh Shapiro at any moment. Any moment. It will be no problem. So after college, I put myself through law school, working in this last remaining steel mill in Aliquippa. I did hard labor, 120 degrees, you get black stuff on you that you had to have special soap to get it off. You blow your nose and all this stuff would come out of your head, but it taught me hard work. It taught me to study hard. And eventually I went to law school, and I ended up at one of the biggest firms in the world doing energy law, construction law, and finding government corruption and bias in procurement process in states all across the country. And I've become one of the top litigators. And I've had 3 boys. They're all wrestlers. I've been married 21 years, and I have had a great life. But in November 2020, we had an election that was taken from us. In November 2020, we had a governor who took COVID positive elderly people in the nursing homes and ordered them back into, took them from the hospitals and put them back in the nursing homes. Ordered them. At the same time, the Secretary of Health was taking her mom out of the nursing homes, right? Criminal. They knew their policy was harmful and they did it anyway. And what did our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, do about it? Nothing. In November 2020, we had a governor who arbitrarily closed businesses, right? Walmart was okay, but mom and pop store in Reading closed, right? Or how about this? Wolf Enterprises in York, Pennsylvania, who makes cabinets, that could stay open, but Hoff Enterprises in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, that employs 200 people and makes the same cabinet, closed, right? Arbitrary abuse of power, unconstitutional, and what did our Attorney General Josh Shapiro do about it? Nothing. And finally, all 50 states have an Emergency Power Act, right? Where, you see it all the time. There's a hurricane, governor declares emergency. Only in Pennsylvania did our governor ignore the legislature and became a dictator, right? They couldn't even pull his powers back, and we had to pass a constitutional amendment to take it back. And our Attorney General Josh Shapiro, who's supposed to protect us from our governor becoming a dictator, what did he do about it? Nothing. And the reason why Josh Shapiro did nothing, and more nothing is because he wants to be president of the United States, and his next move is to become your governor, right? And so he wants to put his own political career ahead of the people of Pennsylvania. And I promise you, as your next governor, I have no political career. I am running, and I will always put the people ahead of politics. Now, if I sat up here and told you that Governor Wolf and Josh Shapiro are the only 2 politicians that have failed you, I'd be lying, okay? I'd be lying. My hometown of Aliquippa, the one where people weren't having enough food, it is worse off today than it was 50 years ago. And I find these towns all across Pennsylvania. I've been to all 67 counties. I see towns that are dying. I see places that are being deserted, right? And the politicians don't do anything about it, right? Pennsylvania should be succeeding beyond all belief. Don't let any of them tell you any differently. We've got more natural resources than most countries of the world, right? We've got something other people don't have. We got hard-working, blue-collar people here. And the other thing, we sit right geographically in the middle of the most successful spot on planet Earth, the northeastern United States. So by all accounts, we should be succeeding, but we're not. We're in continual decline. Why? Well, the first thing you got to look at is we pay way too many taxes, more than all the other states. We've got way too many. We have, think about this if you were a new family or business thinking about coming to Pennsylvania. We have the second highest business income tax in the entire country. Only New Jersey's higher. Second highest gasoline tax in the entire country. Only California's higher. Top 15 in property taxes. Plus, if that weren't enough for you, we got income tax, sales tax, property transfer tax, death tax, still have the Johnstown flood tax on alcohol, and we can't forget, we have the world's most expensive road in the Pennsylvania Turnpike. No road costs more to drive than the Pennsylvania Turnpike. There is nothing even remotely interesting about Pennsylvania for any company or business to want to come here, right? And why do we have all those taxes? You ever ask yourself, our roads aren't that good, the services aren't that good? What we do have is this. We're number one in one category, folks. We have the country's largest and most expensive legislature in the entire country, bar no one else, right? For many of our politicians, being that senator or state rep is the best job they'll ever have, and they're not going to vote in some bold fashion to make change when they got to keep that job, right? We have one of the largest executive branches in the entire country, and then we have these worthless commissions like the LCB and the Turnpike Commission, where the politicians put their friends to make $200,000 and get a pension, people that got them elected, right? And we don't need these things. These commissions don't provide any value to you. They're just expense. And so we have to have change. And so what we have done in the Richey campaign is we brought some of the best experts together, and we put together a 12-point plan that you can find on my website and in my brochures on the back, jasonrichey2022.com, on how we're going to turn around Pennsylvania. And it's in writing, so you can hold me responsible. And I'm going to go through a little bit with you. Number one, I want to bring Pennsylvania slowly to 0% income tax, because all an income tax does is penalizes people who have the audacity to get off their butt and go out and work. And we've seen it in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, where you have 0% income tax, the people come, the businesses come. Okay? Second, we've got to shrink the cost of our government, right? That could mean a part-time legislature, just like the majority of the states have, where the legislatures come for 30 days and they go home and they're subject to the same laws that you and I are subject to, right? Third, we've got to unleash our manufacturing and energy potential, okay? We have more natural gas than Saudi Arabia has oil. And my plan, the Richey Energy Plan, is to build pipelines from all corners of this state, get it to Philadelphia, liquefy it, get our naval yard going, and start exporting natural gas around the world, folks. Right now, do you know where Boston and New England get most of their natural gas from? Russia. You're absolutely right. Vladimir Putin. That's how crazy our country is right now. We can't build a pipeline across New York. So the only way we can get it there is to ship it to them. But when we do, and we ship our natural gas to all of our NATO allies, we will create, some estimates show, 50,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. We will make sure our country's energy independent. Just Pennsylvania can do this. And we will improve our national security, because our allies will be dependent on Pennsylvania natural gas, not Russian. And finally, we'll improve the environment, because the more market share that Pennsylvania has, the less that China and Russia have, and the less methane that will go up into the air. So that is a win-win-win. Fourth, education. On day one, just like Glenn Youngkin did, I will ban CRT from all of our schools. Day one, minute one. And we've got to bring school choice to Pennsylvania. It should be the parents in charge of their kids' education, not the bureaucrats in Harrisburg. And we're going to keep those schools open. Now, while my plan will move Pennsylvania forward and make it an economic juggernaut, we will not forget what happened in November 2020. We had an election taken from us, and something called Act 77 was passed, right, by the politicians. 50 days of mail-in balloting, and you all know it in here. This is an educated group. It allows for ballot harvesting and all kinds of ways for the Democrats to cheat. I will not let that happen. I promise to each and every one of you, that we will repeal the mail-in ballot portion of Act 77. That is mission number one. Two, what that will do, and one of the speakers earlier before me talked about it, is that gets us back to our absentee ballot system, right? That was a system, I don't know about you, but I've been living in Pennsylvania for 50 years. I never remember one person ever saying there was a problem with our system, right? We go back, and that is a constitutional system. It's what our state constitution requires. It says Pennsylvanians shall go to the polls to vote. But I'm going to propose two changes to the legislature to our old system. Number one, we have to have election ID. Everybody should have to identify who they are at the polls. This nonsense that people don't have IDs, if they don't, I promise them I will get you one. We will send buses out. We'll do whatever, because you can't be a functional citizen if you don't have ID, okay? And the second change I'll make is we're going to make the general election a statewide holiday. That way, we got plenty of poll workers and plenty of eyeballs everywhere, and nobody can complain they didn't have an opportunity to vote, right? So we're going to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, and we will have election integrity under a Richey administration once again. Now, I want to close with this. This is the most important part, because I got a lot of competitors, right? There's like 14, 15 folks. And I want to tell you why I'm the guy to beat Josh Shapiro. Number one, this is a little self-serving, but I'm from Western Pennsylvania, okay? I know where I'm at. But this is important. We've only had 4 Republican governors since 1960, and they're all from Western Pennsylvania. And the reason is the Democrats that live, there's 600,000 more Democrats in this state, and the Democrats and independents that live in Western Pennsylvania are very conservative, much more so than the ones that sit around Philadelphia. And they will vote for one of their own over a flaming liberal like Josh Shapiro any day of the week. And I'm from Allegheny County, and that is a huge advantage if you care about winning and bringing conservatism back to Pennsylvania. Number two, I have a plan. And I told you I have a 12-point plan in writing. One of the things that I think most people loved about Donald Trump is that whatever he said he was going to do, he did it. You're absolutely right. And so I have put mine in writing so you can count on the fact that I will do what I said I was going to do. And the third and last thing is that Josh Shapiro comes from a wealthy Philadelphia family with a private fancy school. He is a career politician that has never worked in the private sector in his entire life. I'm a blue-collar kid, worked in the steel mills, a wrestler, and I've never taken a taxpayer paycheck in my life. And I love that contrast. We will win with that contrast, the blue-collar kid versus that career politician. So I tell you folks here in Berks County, if you're looking for somebody that's pro-life, if you're looking for someone that's pro-Second Amendment and takes care of constitutional carry, someone that will fund our police and enforce the rule of law, and most importantly, someone that has an economic plan to make Pennsylvania the place where our kids and grandkids will stay, I ask you, please support Jason Richey on May 17th. I need your vote. I need you to spread the word. Thank you. I'll be in the back if anyone has a question. Sorry, I went over a little bit. I apologize.
Thank you.
Folks, shortly we're going to have the honor to hear Mr. Homan speak. But first, I want to tell you that we had a meeting this afternoon, a special meeting with Mr. Homan, law enforcement, senior law enforcement from different parts of Pennsylvania, policymakers, Sheriff Eric Wheatneck, and folks, this was a very successful meeting, and I think it's going to have long-term positive benefits for Pennsylvania, and I hope we have others as well. But I'm up here now. I want to thank those people that made that meeting and tonight's meeting possible. First of all, I want to thank Mark Still, who's sitting right over here. He is the president and co-chair of the Patriot Caucus, and right next to him is Velma Ann Ruth. She is the vice president and co-chair of the Patriot Caucus. Actually, Mark lives in Berks County. Velma doesn't. She came from Virginia several times just to do the planning and including tonight. Thank you both very, very much. I also want to thank Sheriff Eric Wheatneck, Berks County Sheriff Eric Wheatneck. There's none better, folks. There's none better than Sheriff Eric Wheatneck. And finally, I want to thank Berks County Patriots Vice Chair, where is she? Kelly Held. Kelly, you know who she is. I want to thank you. I want to thank Wayne Lesher, the Vice Chair of the Legislative Committee. They were all fantastic. All of you were fantastic. Enjoyed working with all 5 of you. You all made that meeting and this meeting possible. Eric, you're up.
Thank you very much, Sam. Do we have any law enforcement supporters in the group tonight? Okay, very good. Very good. Then you're going to absolutely love our next presenter, who came up here from Virginia to meet, as Sam said, with several sheriffs, local police chiefs, state reps, and also county commissioners. And it was a very, very good event. Tom Homan is the former Acting Director of I.C.E., the President and founder of Homeland Strategic Consulting, LLC, former Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I told this story to the people who were here this afternoon. I met Tom for the first time this past summer when I was in Arizona at the border. And we went from the National Sheriff's Conference down to the southern border to the wall. And Tom spoke there, and it was amazing. The statistics and the knowledge of his 30-plus years at ICE are just amazing. And everyone kind of knew I didn't belong there at the time because I was one sheriff who shined my shoes, was all ready, went to the border in the desert. Shine shoes really don't help. I was the only sheriff there who didn't have cowboy boots and a hat on. But I was there. I think I traveled the furthest to get there, and it was amazing. It really was. We're going to show a brief video, and then I want everyone to give a nice Berks County warm welcome to Tom Homan.
Well, it was an intense day, to say the least, on Capitol Hill today as former acting ICE Director Tom Homan delivered an impassioned defense of Border Patrol agents ripping into the inaction of congressional lawmakers. Listen to this exchange with Illinois Democrat Jesus Garcia.
Mr. Homan, I'm a father. Do you have children? How can you possibly allow this to happen under your watch? Do you not care? Is it because these children don't look like children that are around you? I don't get it. Have you ever held a deceased child in your arms?
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country. I've served my country for 34 years.
I find your comments
this is out of control.
as well.
I've served my country for 34 years, and yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms in back of that tractor trailer. I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like, and I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of Congress.
We agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on that, but I disagree. But I also disagree with your characterization of immigrants as prone to criminality.
People for 3 decades on this.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Chairman, before I ask my questions, since it has not yet been done, I think it's important to really make sure that the jingoistic, bigoted testimony of Mr. Homan is called out as nearly completely untrue, as being an outrage, and as a former official directing the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, he should know better. So
Mr.
making
Chairman,
sure that I am...
Mr. Chairman.
No, this is my 5 minutes.
Well, what did I say was inaccurate?
Excuse me.
Okay,
I'm not asking a question.
Okay,
or-
the gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes. She's made her point, and I will try to resolve any other issues at the end of her questioning. Okay.
Thank you. So I just think it's important that it's not accepted as accurate testimony.
Okay. Mr. Homan, is there a crisis on the border?
Of course.
And has there been a crisis there for a long time?
Yes.
I just want to get, because your testimony was at the broader issue, and this is critically important, but we also have a broader issue there. We got unbelievable numbers we've seen on the border with apprehensions and everything else, right?
Absolutely. If I can respond to the earlier remark from Wasserman Schultz, I forgot more about this issue than you ever know. So if you say my testimony is inaccurate, it's wrong. Everything I said here is accurate. Bottom line. If you want to go toe-to-toe, I'm here. I'm here in my own time to speak to the American people about what's false
I'm sure
and what's
happy to
fact.
go toe-to-toe with you, Mr. Homan.
Well,
Happy to
I'm
do
here.
that any day.
But you got to let me respond to your question rather than
I didn't
dropping a
ask you a
bomb and
question.
running away.
It was my time.
So
and I
there's a
wasn't asking
crisis
you a
on the
question.
board.
And we found a memo. Dates back to April 23rd of 2018, where there was an official recommendation to, quote, pursue prosecution of all amenable adults who cross our border, quote, illegally, even though this applied to legal asylum seekers in practice, including those presenting with a family unit between ports of entry in coordination with DOJ. Here is the memo that I would like to submit to the congressional record.
What is the date on that?
It is the memorandum for the Secretary from Homeland Security.
Date.
April 23rd, 2018, subject increasing prosecutions of immigration violations.
Without objection.
And so I looked at this memo, and it seems like this is the source of it. And it seems as though, Mr. Homan, that you are the author. It says here from yourself, Kevin Mikulinen, and Francis Cisna. Is this correct? Did you sign the memo?
I'd have to see what you...
You're giving it.
I'd be happy to provide it. And we'll provide it over, but I would like to note that here it says the official recommendation. There were 3 different options presented. The third included the option for family separation. This initiative would pursue prosecution of all amenable adults, including those presenting with a family unit. Mr. Homan, your name is on this. Is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy.
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their...
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review.
Is there anything you'd like to respond to what you've heard today?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Acting Chairman J. Paul and your comment about the Trump administration moving money around for more detention beds. I'd like to remind you, under the Obama administration, we did that most of the years he was president. We moved money around. DHS is called reprogramming. We did that under the Obama administration. I don't remember any hearings on that. And also, I'd like to remind you that under the Obama administration, I mean, you're quick to point out the cages were built under Obama administration. I was there. Family detention, we had 100 family beds under Obama administration. We built 3,000 more. So when there was a surge in FY14 and FY15 on border, Congress was quick to give all the money we needed to build detention facilities, get transportation contracts. We reprogrammed money out of the majority of the years she was president. That was fine. Under Obama administration, FY12, we removed 409,000 people, half of what was removed last year. There was no hearings on that. So you know, this is about transparency. Let's be factual about it.
The time of the gentleman has expired. Since you did address some comments at me, I'll just say that I didn't like it under the Obama administration either. In fact,
but be honest with the American people. You can't point out faults in the Trump administration when it happened under the Obama administration. That's dishonesty. It's pathetic and it's sad.
Mr. Homan, I control the time, and I am the chairwoman of the committee. Thank you for respecting that. I didn't like it under the Obama administration, and I'll remind you, Mr. Homan, that you also testified before Congress in support of the Obama's Priorities Enforcement Program before the Senate Judiciary Committee on May 19th, 2016, which had a very different approach.
Well, can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
No.
Of course not.
I want to give you some time, but I do want to ask one quick question, and I want to make one quick statement. I find it very offensive that anybody would compare any federal employee, frankly, to someone who, the Gestapo or running Nazi concentration camps. That is very offensive. I have 15 seconds and I yield it to you.
Thank you for saying that. I wish somebody in Democratic leadership would say that out loud. Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
The witness will suspend.
You know, I never get sick of watching that. I'll tell you a true story. That I've testified 3 times since I retired, and the 3rd time is when I lost my temper. I lost my temper the first 2, but the 3rd time is when I went off, especially on the congressman from Chicago says I don't care about dying children. He should have did his research. That morning I left, and my wife stopped me at the front door, and she said, "Why do you keep doing this? You're retired. It's not your fight anymore." And I said, "Because I love my country. And I'm not going to let these people lie to American people." So my last day at ICE, I sent a memo to all the ICE agents saying I may retire from my position at ICE, but I will never retire from defending the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol. So I told my wife, I'm going up there and testifying. And she goes, "They're going to call you a Nazi. They're going to call you racist. They're going to call you a white nationalist." I said, "I know." And she goes, "Well, I'm going to say a prayer for you today." I said, "You better say a prayer for the first Democrat that pisses me off because I'm not in the mood." And sure enough, the guy from Chicago pissed me off. You know, the thing about these hearings, when you're a witness in these hearings, you're under oath. They put you under oath in the beginning of the hearing. But nobody on that bench, none of the congressmen, they're not under oath. So I sat there for that hearing and listened to lie and lie and lie. Then when the congressman said I didn't care about dying children, you saw me, I hit the button, I was getting ready to talk, because at that moment I said, I'd had enough of this shit. And I'm going to light it up. Because I tell you something, like I said in that video, I've seen a lot of dying children. People always ask me, why do you get angry when you're doing Fox shows? Or why do you get angry in front of Congress? Because they don't know what I know and see what I see. So every time this happens, the 34 and a half years I've done this job, first of all, I started as a police officer in New York, then became a Border Patrol agent. Then I became a special agent. I was the first director of ICE that actually came up through the ranks. And I'm proud of that. It's my biggest accomplishment. So when I ran the ICE agency, I had 20,000 men and women that worked for me, and I never asked them to do a single thing I didn't do myself because I was a special agent. And in my time on the border, I saw a lot of tragedy. I felt dying children. In that video where I was talking about the tractor trailer, I was called to Victoria, Texas. I was actually in Dallas giving a speech, and the ICE headquarters called me to get on an Air and Marine flight down to Victoria, Texas, and go to a crime scene because they knew I spent most of my career in human trafficking and alien smuggling. So I went down there to the crime scene and as soon as I got there, we landed by helicopter, and the Texas Rangers walked me through the crime scene. I grew up in a town of 2,500 people. I grew up milking cows. That's how I made money. And now I'm in the back of a tractor trailer and 19 dead people at my feet, including a 5-year-old little boy that suffocated to death. They all suffocated to death in the back of a steel box where temperatures got over 170 degrees. Everybody in the back of the tractor trailer was in their underwear trying to get some relief from the heat. And when I got there, like I said, I had a 5-year-old son at the time, so going through the crime scene with a photographer, I was instructing what pictures to take. And I told him that we wouldn't take pictures of the child right now. To be honest with you, I couldn't. Because I couldn't deal with it at the time. So, and like I said in the video, what was his last 30 minutes of life like? He's looking at his father for help. His father can't help him, but locked in the tractor trailer rig in the box. What is his father thinking that he put his child in this position? What a terrible way to die, to suffocate in the heat, and you're locked in a black box, you can't see anything. There's so many people in that tractor trailer that when they died, they died standing up because there was no room to fall down. That's why I get angry, because I've seen the flip side of this coin. Anybody thinks illegal immigration is a victimless crime, you're wrong. People are dying. 31% of women that make that journey get sexually assaulted. 31%. When I was an agent, I interviewed a 12-year-old little girl that was raped numerous times making that journey. She had 22 different DNA samples inside her. I was sent to Phoenix, Arizona to run Operation Ice Storm, where cartels were ripping aliens off from one another like they do dope. These people are worth so much money. When they get to the United States to a load house, other smugglers were ripping off other load houses at gunpoint, stealing each other's aliens because they're worth so much money. So in Phoenix, Arizona, during Operation Ice Storm, the bodies were piling up because they would get the aliens in the stash house. They would call the relatives and say, okay, you owe us $20,000 and we'll send them on the next bus trip. But the agreement was for $5,000. They tell the family members, you're going to pay $20 or we'll kill them. And they did. Bodies were piling up. The last case I worked in Phoenix, Arizona, they killed a migrant by stabbing him in the face over 20 times. They'd call the relatives up and torture him and beat him to death while the relatives heard him on the phone. That is why Tom Homan gets upset and passionate about what I do, because what the Biden administration has done is a disservice to this country. I had the honor of working with the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. I had a long career. And I respect every president I've ever worked for. Even if I disagreed with them on some of the immigration issues, I respect them because they're elected by the American people. I didn't agree with them all, but I respected them. But one thing you got to remember, every president I worked for, from Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump, every one of them wanted a secure border. President Obama wanted to secure a border, so did Clinton. They took certain actions to try to secure it. Some took more actions than others. Others did less. But they all came in and they all campaigned on the need to secure the border. Now we have a president who I do not respect because he sold this country out to become president. The first president in the history of this nation that came into office and purposely unsecured the most secure border we've ever had. Who the hell does that? And he's got a Secretary of Homeland Security who should be impeached because he's violated his oath. The homeland's less secure under his leadership than it ever has been. Think about that. A president came into office and unsecured the border. People can attack President Trump and Tom Homan all they want, but the data is clear. When President Trump was president, illegal immigration was down 83%. 83%, unprecedented. A 40-year low in illegal immigration, unprecedented. So I asked when the left wants to attack, and I'm sure there's a few lefties in here hiding, that's fine. I'll say the same thing to your face I'm saying here tonight because I don't sweat you. When the illegal immigration is down 83%, when you got a 40-year low, how many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl don't make it into the country? How many millions of dollars do the cartels not make? The same cartels who have murdered Border Patrol agents. President Trump saved lives, and he secured the border. He built a wall. Walls work. And the reason I lost respect in this president and the secretary because during the Obama administration, I was third in command of ICE. And that's why she said, let me make something clear. Joe Biden was vice president during the surge in FY15. Alejandro Mayorkas was his deputy secretary. I met with these guys numerous times on how to shut the border down, and we did it. How do we do it? We built detention facilities and held people. We made them see a judge. 90% lost their case. We put them on an airplane and sent them home. And miraculously, the border numbers dipped because we showed a consequence to deterrence to illegal activity. Now he's president and now he's the secretary. They're doing the complete opposite of what they know worked in FY15. They're not detaining them, they're releasing them. They're not making them see a judge, they're releasing them on the court date. They release them on what they call an NTR, notice to report. We're going to release you, and we're going to trust you and turn yourself in once you get to your final destination. And they're not being removed because at the same time they opened the border up, they decapitated ICE, the agency I used to run. ICE can no longer do their job. The ICE report hasn't been released yet. It should have been released 2 months ago. I built that ICE report. They should have had those numbers by mid-October. Release it beginning in November. They haven't released it yet. Why not? Because it's going to be a terrible report and they're not going to be able to spin it. It's at the White House right now with the Domestic Policy Council trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to release these numbers? Another reason I don't think they're releasing them because on February 1st, I'm testifying in a district court in the state of Texas because I'm suing the Biden administration. And that's probably the most shocking thing of all. Like I said, I've served 6 presidents probably. I never thought I'd retire and have to sue a president for not doing his job. But I am. I'm working on I've written more affidavits suing this president than I did in my entire career. I've written affidavits for Florida, Arizona, Missouri, a bunch for Texas. We're 3-0. Remain in Mexico, we won that one. We shut down the moratorium. We won that one. The ICE priorities, we're going to win that one. Because I can tell you what the ICE report's going to say, because I still got friends at ICE. ICE removed a total of 59,000 people. In FY12, we removed 409,000. ICE removals are down 90% under this president. So when we sued the administration saying ICE policies shut down immigration enforcement, oh, no, they don't. No, they don't. They just prioritize the criminals. That's why I'm not releasing the report, because that'll be Exhibit A. Because not only is removals down 90%, removal of criminals can be down about 65%. So this whole mantra that we're going to reprioritize ICE to concentrate more on criminals was a lie. They shut down immigration enforcement. Let me tell you something. The Secretary sent a memo just 2 months ago, and it says this: being in the country illegally is not enough to be arrested. They're telling a sworn immigration enforcement officer who enforces the immigration law, just because someone who's illegally in violation of law, you shouldn't arrest them. And they wonder why the border surgeon? ICE can't do the job anymore. These men and women, which them and the Border Patrol, I'll tell you what, I wore the green uniform. I know it's like to stand down there, and I know it's like to be an ICE agent, and it's the finest 1% this country has. And they can't do their job. Border Patrol morale is in the toilet. It's non-existent. I've been down the border 5 times this year. They're my brothers and sisters. I love each and every one of them. I did that job. And what did the Biden administration do? They turned their backs on them. These men and women in green have been abandoned by the president. They've been abandoned by the Secretary of Homeland Security. They've been abandoned by their chief. The Biden administration, rather than giving them the tools of the job, letting them enforce the law, they turn them into a welcoming station. Border Patrol station ain't an enforcement station anymore. It's a welcome station. The only thing they're not doing is handing out Democratic voter registration IDs, but I'm sure that's coming. The men and women of Border Patrol didn't sign up for this. They want to enforce the law. And what's happening on the southern border right now, it's just, I don't care what your opinion is on immigration, this is much more than an immigration issue. When Joe Biden was running for president, when he made the promise, I'm going to shut down ICE detention, I'm going to reprioritize who ICE arrests, I'm going to give you free health care, I'm going to have a moratorium on deportation, I'm going to award amnesty, I'm going to give DACA an award. When you make them types of promises, who the hell wouldn't come to the greatest country on earth? And like I said, he was vice president during the surge, so he knew when he was making those promises during the campaign, he knew he would cause a surge. And he became president. He kept those promises by executive orders. He knew exactly what he was doing. And everybody asked, well, you know, why would anybody do that? He sold out to the progressive left to become president. He knew he needed the progressive left. He needed their support to become president. So that man sold out this country to become president. That's why I don't respect them, because when you open the border to illegal immigration, you open it up to sickness and disease. We know COVID's been released in this country by the thousands. That's a fact. And to this day, they're still not testing and vaccinating. But if you don't get vaccinated and tested, they want you to mask up, and they're shutting down businesses, and it's just ridiculous. You're held to a standard that illegal aliens are not held to. But guess what they are doing? We soon to put the Remain in Mexico back in place, and of course they're slow rolling that, so we're going to go back to court and re-sue them because I think it's a contempt of court. They've removed about 300 people in the last 2 months in Remain in Mexico. Shit, we did that every hour. It's a joke. But you know what Mexico made them do? If you want to get back to Remain in Mexico, we want you to test and vaccinate them. And guess what? We're doing it. We're testing and vaccinating those we return to Mexico, but we won't test and vaccinate those that are released into the United States. But you better mask up. The men and women of the Border Patrol, the finest 1% ever, they'll lose their jobs if they don't vaccinate. But they're arresting hundreds of people a day that are being released with COVID and not being tested. I talked to one Border Patrol agent in Rio Grande Valley. They call me because they know I got their backs. He was down there on detail. He actually was processing a male adult. He had COVID, and he was ordered to release him because they didn't want to detain anybody with COVID. Much rather release him. True story. And he was convicted of homicide. This administration released an illegal alien with COVID that was convicted of murder. And that's one I know about. So when you open the border to illegal immigration, you open it up to sickness, COVID, TB. When I was ICE director, we had one guy we arrested with TB. It was a strain of TB that we never saw before. There's no drugs to counteract it. We worked with the Texas Department of Health. We worked with the CDC to try to come up with some sort of cocktail to treat TB. And we held him in custody for like 6-8 months till we were able to treat it. What if he would have got into our community? So COVID is just the latest disease coming across the border. When I was ICE director, we had to shut down facilities for measles, something we defeated in this country years ago. When you open the border to illegal immigration and you create a humanitarian crisis like they did, 40 to 50% of Border Patrol agents are no longer on the line. They're in the facility processing people. 40 to 50%. For instance, you know, when the secretary was on stage lying about removing the Haitians, they actually released them. With that 15,000 under the bridge, they pulled every Border Patrol agent from the sector into process. 224 miles of border was unguarded for weeks. 224 miles of border without a single Border Patrol agent. You don't think the cartels had a field day with that? Understand the criminal cartels control the northern border of Mexico. They control our border. I talked to chief patrol agents, told me they lost operational control of the border. One chief called it broken arrow. He goes, we're getting an invasion. We got more than we can handle. I'm outnumbered. Broken arrow. But the secretary wants to get up on stage and say the border's secure and closed. He's a liar. He needs to be impeached. He has violated the oath he took. So let me explain that no one celebrated this election more than the criminal cartels in Mexico because President Trump put them out of business pretty much. Because when we secured the border at a 40-year low, when we didn't have all these family groups coming across to pull Border Patrol agents off the line, Border Patrol was vigilant. They were 100% in the line. Illegal immigration was down. They were vigilant. So the numbers went down. The country was safe. The cartels were pissed because they couldn't get as much of their product across. When Joe Biden ran for, they were hoping he'd win because all the promises he made, they knew this is going to cause a surge. So we're going to make a boatload of money smuggling people. We're going to make a boatload of money smuggling drugs because the border would be half protected. The criminal cartels control the border. So when you see on the news there's a group of 200 family units crossing, they don't have the decision where to cross and when to cross. The cartels dictate that. They say, we're going to cross this group at this time in this place. Knowing the Border Patrol is going to surge, then we're going to move the fentanyl, the MS-13 gang members, bad people that don't want to be caught and turn themselves in. We're going to move them over here to the unguarded border. The 224 miles. In Yuma, just a month ago, they got so many aliens crossing the border, their facility became overwhelmed. They called every Border Patrol agent in the process. Hundreds of aliens were walking across the border unimpeded into the city of Yuma, taking taxi cabs, buses, even Ubers. They weren't arrested because no one was on the border. So illegal immigration, humanitarian crisis, takes half the Border Patrol agents off the line. The cartels know that. So that creates a public health crisis with fentanyl that's already killed 100,000 people in this country. That didn't happen during the Trump administration. The first year of Biden administration, more migrants have died making this trip than any year I know of in my 35 years. And his policies are inhumane? His policies ain't inhumane. More people are dying. 100,000 Americans overdose. 31% of women are being raped. Again, when Trump had it down to 83%, how many women didn't get raped? Don't tell me his policies are humane. They're dangerous. When you open the border up to illegal immigration and to public health, you also open up to public safety. Border Patrol's arrested over 14,000 criminals this year. Convicted criminals they arrested. That's who they caught. Now, reminder, criminals don't want to be arrested. So one thing the administration isn't talking about, there's 500,000 gotaways, just under 500,000 gotaways. These are people that didn't get arrested by Border Patrol. Where do we come up with that number? Based on camera traffic, drone traffic, and sensor traffic they couldn't respond to because they're busy with family units. 500,000. So if they arrested 14,000 criminals, how many of that 500,000 were criminals? Because criminals don't want to be arrested. They're going to try to evade apprehension. Out of 14,000 criminals they arrested, 59 were convicted of murder. How many murders didn't get caught? How many murders were in that 500,000? And finally, I'll say this. It's a national security crisis. When half the Border Patrol is not on the line, if you're from somewhere in this world and wants to come here and blow something up, after 9/11, it's hard to get a plane ticket because all the database checks are done before you get a plane ticket. If there's any derogatory information on you, you're not getting a ticket. You're not going to get a visa because the visa security program we put in place, you run through a myriad of databases, including DOD intelligence databases. If there's any derogatory information, any derogatory relationships you have, you're not getting a visa. So if you want to blow something up in this country, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get in? You're going to get in the same way 20 million others did, especially now when half the Border Patrol is not on the line, when 500,000 people got away. They've arrested 16 people on the FBI screening database. They've arrested 16. Again, terrorists don't want to be arrested. How many of the 500,000 were known as suspected terrorists? So this isn't just an immigration issue, it's a national security issue. And this president and this secretary know it. But it's more important to them to win democratic perpetual power than secure our nation. Why do I say that? What is the only possible good reason to unsecure a border? There's no downside in securing the borders. No downside unless women getting raped. No downside unless children dying. There's no downside in taking millions of dollars away from the cartels. There's no downside unless overdose deaths in this country. Why the hell would you unsecure a border? Future Democratic voters. And they don't even have to vote. What did Biden also do? He overturned Trump's census rule. Millions of people will be counted in the next census in the sanctuary cities, which are going to result in more seats in the House for the Democrats, which leads to electoral college, which leads to perpetual power. It's about power over common sense. That's why I get pissed off. They get up there and they make their speeches. They're not under oath. They lied to the American people. And what do they spend their time doing? Like Walshman Schultz. Someone, for God's sake, buy her a brush. She wants to attack me as being bigot. See, one thing that didn't show on that, I talked to her staffer after that hearing. I said, she accused me of committing perjury. I expect to be indicted. And when I get indicted and I sue, because I've said everything I said is factual based on real data, everything she owns, I'll own. AOC, who's probably the dumbest person that ever got into Congress, everything she says, every time she opens her mouth, she's wrong when on immigration. So she thought she had her Perry Mason moment. I found a memo. Like I signed it, and I'll sign it again tomorrow. She wants to say family separation. And like I said in the video, I was a cop in New York. I separated a lot of families. When a parent committed a crime and had a child with them, they got separated. We shouldn't have a different set of rules for those that cross the border illegally, which is a crime. This comes from the same people. Zero tolerance is terrible, family separation. But they have no problem in separating a baby from a mother's womb and killing it. They're fine with that. Don't preach to me. You can raise that red flag all you want. You couldn't get me off the gavel. What are you going to do? She could take that gavel and stick her where the sun don't shine because she was lying to the American people and I wasn't going to allow it. And if you learn anything tonight, they work for us. And I wasn't going to sit there and lie to the American people. I want to do two quick things, sir. I'll respect. Number one, if you see a Border Patrol agent, ICE agent, walk up to them and shake their hand because they've been abandoned by the president and the secretary. They've been abandoned by half the country who believes we should have open borders. This is the finest 1% this nation has. I was a Border Patrol agent. Let me remind you something. This morning at 3 a.m. when you're sleeping in your bed, there's a Border Patrol agent standing on a dirt trail someplace because the sensor went off. Something's moving north on that dirt trail in the middle of nowhere. His nearest backland's probably 10, 12 miles away. They're going to stand there and hide in the brush and take it on. Is it somebody just coming here for a better life or is it a heavily armed drug smuggler? They don't know. They're going to stand there and take it on. These are America's heroes. I started my career in the Border Patrol. The finest 1% this country had, they're all American. What did this administration do? They abandoned them, won't let them do their job, but they didn't take them a second to attack the Horse Patrol for doing nothing. The Horse Patrol did their job. And while they attacked the men and women of the Horse Patrol, they didn't say a word about the Haitians. Haitians were entering the country illegally, which is a crime. They ignored verbal commands from a federal officer, which is a felony. But what do they want? They want to fire the Border Patrol agents for doing their job. I was in the Border Patrol. I know the rules of engagement. They did nothing wrong. And why hasn't the investigation come out yet? because nothing happened, nothing's wrong. But they're not going to release it because it's going to embarrass the president, the vice president, members of Congress, and the secretary who called them all out guilty before there's an investigation. The secretary said, I'm ashamed, I'm appalled that they trained horses to attack children. The next day he says, but I want a fair investigation by the Inspector General, who reports to him. So you see a Border Patrol ICE agent walk up to him, finest 1% in this country has. ICE agents' morale is non-existent. They can't do the job anymore. It's not a coincidence at the same time you open the border and have historic illegal migration that ICE has the lowest number of arrest removals. It's all part of the plan to keep them here because they think they're future Democratic voters. I'll share one little story with you. The thing that gives me hope. I shared it with the group this afternoon. President Trump, the greatest president of my generation, the greatest president ever worked for, the man who did more to secure this border, protect this country, support our military and first responders than any president I've ever worked for. Great president, great man. I was doing a show. I was doing Fox and Friends one morning, and I was getting mad like I usually get. And I was particularly mad that day. So I was doing the show and losing my temper as usual. And I finished the show. I took my microphone and earpiece off. They actually built a studio in my basement, so a lot of those stuff, I'm actually in my basement. So I'm probably wearing shorts. I'm probably even wearing suit bottoms, so you know. I finished the show and I was angry. My phone rang. As soon as I took my mic off, it was President Trump. True story. Tom, Trump. I said, how you doing? Just saw your show. Good job as always. He goes, two things. I said, yes, sir. He goes, number one, that picture behind you, is that you and me when I gave the National Security Medal? I said, yes, sir, it is. Well, blow it up. I can't see myself. Okay? And second of all, stop getting so angry. In 2024, you and I can come back and fix this shit. So will he come back? I'll tell you what I did. I tell you what I do know. And I don't got no problem telling anybody this. I was down in Mar-a-Lago. I've been there a few times. Last meeting I had with him, we shook hands. And I told him, you come back, I'll come back. And I promise you, we'll fix this shit.
Kelly and Wayne, can you come up a minute? We'll do it here. Director Homan, on behalf of the Berks County Patriots, we'd like to give you this basket as a token to show you what Berks County has to offer. And Kelly, do you want to tell the director what's in there?
All kinds of Pennsylvania goodies. All kinds of Pennsylvania goodies.
Name a couple.
Yingling beer.
I'm a Pabst Blue Ribbon guy. Every Saturday, Pabst Blue Ribbon, I'm smoking some sort of dead animal in the smoker. But I'll drink the Yingling, it's free.
Well, do you eat pretzels with the beer? Do you? We got pretzels, right, Kelly?
Pretzels and dipping sauce and chips and shoofly pie and scrapple.
Sir, as I said, as a token of the Berks County Patriots and appreciate what you do, we appreciate everything you have done, and we appreciate everything that you're going to do. God bless you, and God bless the USA, sir. My pleasure. Amen. We'll take that out for you. Okay.
And look, I want to thank. I knew there was going to be a lot of people tonight. Velma told me. I didn't know I was going to be up my ass in politicians, because I generally don't like them. But the politicians I met here tonight, they're on the right side of the issue. So please support them. We got to take this country back. Please.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Linda, over here, girl. Linda's going to do the 50-50, and then Kelly's going to close the meeting with prayer.
I have to have somebody. We collected almost $500, so half of that would be $248. I'm sorry, it's got to be $248. We already counted. Okay, the number is 3844585. Who has it? 585 is the last numbers. Where is it? Come on up. Come on down. I can't go that far. Wow. 585.
It's my wife's number, so I hope it's right.
Oh, wait, no. Your wife's
Right.
number?
Yeah,
Not
she's
your number?
No.
Is she here?
Yeah, she's right there. She
Okay.
can't walk well.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. There'll be something for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks. Kelly is going to close the meeting in prayer. Please remain in the house. Don't forget our next meeting. We have a great slate of candidates. Thank you very much. Kelly?
Okay, I wasn't prepared for this, but Father, we just thank you and we praise you for this time that we could come together as patriots. And we thank you for the speakers tonight, that they were able to enlighten us with their plans. And Lord, we just give you the praise and honor as we want to follow your will, Lord God. So speak to each one of our hearts and lead us where you would like us to be. And God bless our United States of America. And everybody have a safe trip home. Amen.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you all. As Kelly said, safe trip home. See you next month. Thank you.